For 20 years, this couple killed and ate 30 people before getting caught. The story begins on September 11th, 2017 in Krasnodar, Russia. A group of road workers were doing some repairs when one of them stumbled across a mobile phone just laying on the roadside. After picking up the phone, one of the workers decided to go through the pictures to see if he could tell who the previous owner was. But what he actually saw was something horrifying.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We're talking about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG videos, Facebook, anything weird, unusual, unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank all my supporters. It's coming back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, man. Commenting down below and just sticking around with me. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Let's seek the truth.
The real Leatherface.
Here we go. Isn't that what, like, Texas Chainsaw is based off of?
The girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes, each when she
What the? Did y'all see that transcript? What it said? That was bone chilling, bro. People are crazy.
Charles Manson. Little backstory, he had a rough upbringing. When his mom had him, she was 16 years old. Apparently, she was at a bar one day, and the bartender was like, wow, what I would do to have like such a beautiful baby like that. Apparently, his mom was like, give me a beer and you can have the baby. Apparently, the bartender gave her a beer, she drank it, and gave her the baby. Then apparently, it took like 2 weeks, and his uncle is the one that went and found the bartender and got him back. He did commit a lot of crimes growing up, basically throughout his entire life, that the list is insane, dude. Things I never even knew he did. Like, it went from robbery to running an underground casino. It all kind of got a little serious when he was 18 and got caught sexually assaulting a boy at knife point. Then went to jail and then sexually assaulted 3 more men in jail. He got out, got married, then got a divorce a year later, and then started seeing a 16-year-old. Eventually ended up getting married to a prostitute named Candy, and then they got a divorce when he got arrested again. He said he fell in love with Scientology and music, so in 1967 he was released from jail and he moved to San Francisco, and he joined this hippie group where they preached about like LSD and like being free and like leaving and stuff like that. And that's where Charles actually started forming his own cult. And a lot like Ted Bundy, where he was a very charismatic dude, like people were very fond of him. In this hippie group, he started getting females that like wanted to follow him basically, and then he moved them over to Swan Ranch in California. His community just kept getting bigger. He released a song with Dennis Wilson from the Beach Boys, which I didn't know, and that really boosted him up in the society's eyes, and a lot of people started moving to this ranch, and they say it got upwards to like towards 100 people. And all of a sudden one day,
Damn, what the hell? I know it is on call.
Just imagine capturing this on your Ring camera. It was 2018 and just outside of her condo in Phoenix, Arizona, when Jessica Catania got an alert on her phone and saw this. According to her eventual statement, she immediately realizes she's in danger. She locks her bedroom door, she starts dialing 911, but that's when she heard it. So whoever this man was, he then pries open the living room window and pops out the screen. He's in the house. This woman, Jessica, she's like incredibly resourceful in a stressful situation. She immediately grabbed a hammer, any weapon that she could find from her closet, and she hides in her bathroom. But while she's waiting in there, she's got the door locked, but it would only be about 3 minutes before she eventually hears police inside her condo. The problem is, they never found the man. To this day, she has no idea who this man was or why he broke into her condo. In the investigation, police would eventually nickname him Smiles.
Smiles, he look like the damn Joker in that picture, bro.
For 20 years, this couple killed and ate 30 people before getting caught. Here is the incredibly disturbing true crime story of Dmitry and Natalia Bakshivi. Our story begins on September 11th, 2017 in Krasnodar, Russia. A group of road workers were doing some repairs when one of them stumbled across a mobile phone just laying on the roadside. After picking up the phone, one of the workers decided to go through the pictures to see if he could tell who the previous owner was. But what he actually saw was something horrifying. While scrolling through the images, they saw pictures of Dmitry posing with different body parts in his mouth, as well as people's heads on dinner plates, and just a wide variety of disgusting photos I won't describe, but included Dmitry in different body parts. After seeing this, the workers called the police, who quickly arrested Dmitry and Natalia. It didn't take long for them to find a dismembered body close to where the couple lived, on a military base where they allegedly sold meat to the camp. At first, the couple were quick to admit they had killed and eaten 30 people, and when the police searched their home, they found another dismembered body in the house, as well as what appeared to be a jar of pickled human remains in the fridge. After further investigations, the police discovered 19 different pieces of flesh around their home, as well as even more disturbing photos, including a head that had limbs in its mouth. Even more disturbing than that is that they had made a homemade video called Video Lessons for Cannibals. It is believed that the couple would use dating sites to lure people to their home before drugging, killing, and of course eating their victims. Apart from their last victim, Elena Vashareva, who Natalia admitted she wanted murdered in a jealous rage after she allegedly was flirting with Dmitry. While awaiting trial, Dmitry seemed to hate the fact that the media was calling them a cannibal couple, and they began to retract their statements and deny ever eating anyone, claiming that he'd found a dead body in the forest and for some reason took it home to take pictures with it. To this day, the couple were only convicted of murdering Elena, with Dmitry getting 12 years and Natalia getting 11 years. This sparked many rumours of a cover-up, but with Dmitry dying in prison in 2020, the truth may never be revealed in this horrifying case. And for now, that concludes this incredibly disturbing case. Like and follow for more insanely crazy stories just like this one.
3 of the most disturbing facial reconstructions of unknown people. Number 1 is the suitcase body. Before finally being identified as Jenny Gomez, her decomposed remains were found in a suitcase and then sketched by police. The state of her body was not good, and sadly this sketch is almost unrecognizable and doesn't really look like it has features of a normal person. Number 2 is the woman of Oklahoma Road. Discovered off I-40, when the remains were finally found, they were so badly decayed that police initially couldn't determine the sex of the body. Reconstructions of the skull indicated a very unusual bone structure and a body that only stood at about 4'8". This would have been a very recognizable person, but no one ever came forward to claim that they knew the woman of Oklahoma Road. Number 3 is the Ina Jane Doe. I don't like looking at this picture at all. It's really, really bad. It was in 1993 that the severed head of a disabled woman was found by a group of children in Illinois hanging from a bush. An attempt was made to reconstruct her features, but no one ever identified her. It was deemed as pretty unusual that a disabled woman wouldn't have anyone identify her, as she most likely had contact with either doctors or even a caretaker at some point. The Ina Jane Doe remains an unknown, and this reconstruction is by far one of the most disturbing.
It truly is, man. Uncanny Valley effect for me.
As the authorities questioned James, he appeared on edge and defensive. But as they pressed him for answers, he revealed a surprising fact. He was familiar with the area they were searching, having experienced a motorcycle breakdown in that very place earlier that day. He told them that he misplaced his fuses, sunglasses, screwdriver, and helmet. This rang very loud alarm bells for the police, who promptly detained him. As the police conducted their search of his property, they stumbled upon a trove of disturbing items. Along with an arsenal of weapons and ammunition, they found rope, tape, zip ties, and handcuffs, the telltale tools of a predator. But what they discovered next was even more horrifying. Concealed beneath stacks of hay in one of James's barns was a hidden chamber, a makeshift dungeon of unspeakable horrors. The police could barely contain their shock as they peered inside, wondering what atrocities had taken place within its walls. Restraints were fastened to the walls, and a carpeted freezer stood in the corner. Upon closer inspection of the freezer, they found stains that appeared to be blood. They also found several pairs of women's underwear, one of them with unmistakable bloodstains. Sierra's DNA was discovered on a piece of duct tape and an inflatable mattress, undoubtedly placing her on the scene. The pungent smell of cleaning chemicals and bleach only added to the ominous atmosphere, and James was taken in for questioning. Although police were certain that James knew where Sierra was, he was unwilling to provide any information to authorities, and instead maintained his innocence. However, only 3 days later, on July 22nd, the Fulton County Sheriff located the body of Sierra Jugan just 12 miles from James Worley's house. A farmer stumbled upon a suspicious patch of dirt on his property and quickly alerted the authorities. When they arrived, they found the grisly remains of Sierra in a shallow grave. She'd been hogtied, gagged, and was wearing a diaper.
This is the story of Mount Everest's Sleeping Beauty. Her name was Frances Arnstine. Frances had a goal. She wanted to be the first woman from the United States to make it to the summit of Mount Everest without the aid of bottled oxygen. Frances married her climbing partner, Sergei, and together they climbed a lot of mountains in preparation for this goal. They started the ascent from base camp on May 17th, and everything was going great until 3 days later. They had a minor setback when their headlamps failed. Their second attempt on the summit also ended shortly, with them only moving 200 to 300 feet before turning around. They were attempting to get through the death zone so that they could make it to the summit of Mount Everest. If you don't know what the death zone is, go ahead and pause right here. It's a generally accepted fact that if you stop in the death zone, sit down, rest, or anything, you're not getting back up. After the 2 previous failed attempts, they decided that they were just going to go for it. People spend a lot of money on this stuff. But Sergei and Frances were putting themselves in a really bad situation without the supplemental oxygen, and number 2 starting so late in the day. Eventually the two became separated, and Sergei only realized it when he made his way back to camp. I'm going to have to do a part 2, but I'll post them at the same time.
Crazy, man. If people pay that much, man, just to climb Mount Everest? I ain't gonna lie, I thought it was free. I didn't know you had to pay to climb Mount Everest. What the heck? Whole life's a lie, bro. Since when you gotta pay, man? They said $35K to climb. I ain't doing that.
Ladies, this is why you should never let a nice guy make you feel bad for not wanting to be around him. Georgia Williams was a kind-hearted 17-year-old girl. She was still in school and wanted to be a medic in the army, but to make some money, she got a job working at a gas station. There is where she met 22-year-old Jamie Reynolds, who took a liking to her and incessantly asked her out. Georgia politely declined all of his advances, and he would text her all the time, and once he even tried to kiss her on the job. One day, he started telling her about how his true dream was to be a photographer, but he needed to get better before he could quit his day job. He asked Georgia if she could do him a favor and model for him. Georgia wanted to be nice and agreed to participate in his amateur photography. It's important to know that Georgia wasn't scared of Jamie. He never threatened or intimidated her. Instead, he made her feel bad for him because manipulation comes in many different forms. Georgia said goodbye to her family one Sunday evening in May and left to walk to Jamie's house. She was under the impression that his parents would be home and that other models would be there. Several hours later, Georgia's phone texted her parents saying that since it was so late, she was just going to stay at a friend's. Her parents believed this, having no idea of the depravity that was happening just a few streets away. Her parents reported her missing the next day. Georgia's dad was also a member of the police force, so a lot of the officers investigating this knew her. Jamie had bought her this leather outfit, and then he also said he wanted to do photos that would simulate a hanging, so she would have a noose around her neck and be standing on a box, and the box would be removed in post. Jamie had other plans, and in fact, he kicked the box while Georgia was standing on it and took photos of her as she struggled. Police found around 40 photos of Georgia documenting her death and even more of the events that happened after. Jamie had done disgusting things to Georgia's corpse in various rooms throughout the house as documented in photos. Jamie's tastes were disturbing to say the least. He was really into snuff films, and he had over 16,000 images and 72 videos of graphic and sexual acts. But this is what they found in his house, and Jamie and Georgia were both missing. In the hours after the attack, Jamie put Georgia's body in the back of his van and even went to go see the Fast and the Furious 6 with her still in the car. A creepy detail is that a few days before her death, he asked if she wanted to go see it, and she said that she already had plans to see it with her boyfriend. So he kind of forced her to go to the movies with him. and after a while, he dumped her body in the woods. This led to a manhunt, and they were able to catch him before he left the UK, and Jamie Reynolds was sentenced to life in prison. In fact, police said that his planning and actions indicated that he was a serial killer in the making.
Be careful who you call your friend.
This killer accidentally admitted to his crimes by accident when he forgot he was wearing a microphone while taking part in a documentary. This is how a true crime documentary exposed a killer. In 1971, Robert Durst met Kathleen McCormack and they got married. At the time of her disappearance in 1982, Kathleen had nearly graduated college. She was last seen by a witness at a dinner party where she appeared to be upset. She got a call from Robert and left. Robert admitted to having argued with Kathleen that night, but he said he put her on a train to New York and then never saw her again. Her friend called police to report her missing. Interestingly, Kathleen had been treated at a medical centre for facial bruises weeks prior to this and told the friend that Robert had done it. Robert had actually been dating someone else for some time prior to this and had been living separately to Kathleen. When her family broke into her cottage to try and find out where she was, they found the place had been trashed and her possessions put in the bin. Kathleen's family always believed that Robert was involved in her disappearance. In 2000, Susan Berman, a friend of Robert's, was found murdered. Now, she'd actually provided Robert with an alibi for Kathleen's disappearance. Now, pay really close attention to this next bit.
Okay.
Days after she was killed, a letter addressed to the Beverly Hills Police Department contained Susan's address and the word cadaver on it. On the envelope, Beverly was misspelled. Robert admitted in 2005 that Susan had called him shortly before her death to say that the police wanted to question her about Kathleen going missing. It's believed that Robert killed Susan to keep her quiet. In 2001, Robert's neighbour's body parts were found floating in Galveston Bay. Robert's elderly neighbour, Morris Black, had been killed and Robert was arrested. He was actually released on bail and fled and was found about a month later in Pennsylvania. He was found with $37,000 cash, 2 weapons, and interestingly, Morris Black's driving license. In court, Robert claimed he was acting in self-defense. He said he'd accidentally shot Morris and dismembered his body. Due to lack of forensics, he only got 5 years in jail. This is where things get really crazy. HBO was filming a documentary called The Jinx. During production, Susan's stepson found a letter written by Robert. This contained the same spelling error in the word Beverly as the anonymous letter to police.
Wow.
This implicated Robert in the murder. Now, while filming the documentary, Robert needed the toilet. He forgot that he had a microphone still attached to him. He was recorded talking to himself. He said, "There it is, you're caught. You're right, of course, but you can't imagine. Arrest him." And then he said, "What a disaster. He was right. I was wrong." And finally he said, "I'm having difficulty with the question. What the hell did I do? Killed them all, of course."
When Ed Kemper gets released from the mental hospital as a now adult 6'9" mountain, it's a slightly different California than he remembered. Significant time frame of when he was locked up, 63 to 69. You have an entire culture shift. You got hippies, but let me tell you, there was not a single ounce of peace or love in that man's heart. He had this dream of becoming a cop. He tried, they told him he was too big. He literally couldn't fit anywhere, had no clue where he fit into society, couldn't function at all, and especially around women. It also just didn't help that he moved back in with Mom, who reminded him of that every day. Eventually he develops this little hobby of picking up hitchhikers, which allows him to work on his social skills. He's also getting a high off of just doing favors for people, but of course it's also intertwined with his dark fantasies. I always find his first 2 co-ed murders the most interesting to me because, going back to that self-awareness thing again, he basically completely freaks out, realizing, oh my god, this is absolutely insane what I'm doing. It wasn't like the movies, it was taking a lot longer than he thought it would take, and the 2 female co-eds just had a lot more life in them than he anticipated. As the story of the co-ed killer starts to get out and is all over the news, he still continues and is fully able to coax women into his car because he just had this calming effect on people. One thing that always stands out to me is he would purposely check his watch in front of the women and would be like, gee, I don't know if I have enough time. What the hell, hop in. The fact he had a friendly relationship with police, just another wrinkle to this. As he's abducting these women, he's going down to his local diner and shooting the shit with cops and just trying to get a gauge on where they are in the case. And even with him doing that, he was never suspected as being this guy that was picking up these hitchhikers. So now as he kind of thinks he's got everything under control, at the same time, he's being driven insane staying at home by his mom, and he's kind of going off the rails. And he comes to the decision that it just all has to end with her. Now, his mom deserves some of the blame for how he turned out, but she didn't deserve that. You're welcome to look up what Ed did to his mom if you don't already know, but let's just say getting even would be the fucking understatement of the century. With his mom now gone, he did another thing that no other serial killer does. He gave himself up. If you're blind, or you've just been listening to audiobooks since before it was cool, there is a small chance that you have listened to the soothing sounds of narrator of over 500 books for the blind, Edmund Kemper.
Behave yourself, R2. 3PO was shocked. You're going to get us into trouble.
What? He was doing audiobooks?
A short while after this discovery, police arrested James Worley. He was charged with murder, kidnapping, abduction, tampering with evidence, and abuse of a corpse.
Just senseless that somebody could do something like that.
The communities of Delta and Metamora are stunned at this tragic turn of events.
Because we're rural community. Everybody rides their bicycles. Everybody enjoys the country life.
The trial began in March 2018, and the state put forward its case. They said that on July 19th, according to his search history, later in the day, he decided to go for a ride on his motorbike. As he was driving along County Road 7 in Delta, Ohio, he saw Sierra on her bicycle just after she left Josh at about 6:45 p.m. He then drove ahead of her, got off his bike, and hid in the cornfields. When she cycled past, he jumped out and hit her with his motorcycle helmet, causing her to fall into a ditch, and then dragged her into the cornfields along with her bike. Here he tied her up and gagged her. While she was tied up in the cornfield, he actually called his brother to ask for a lift back to his place because his bike apparently broke down. When his brother arrived, he didn't see anything odd, and he gave him a lift back home. James then drove back to the cornfield in his van, and then threw Sierra into the back of his truck and drove to his barn, where he carried out unspeakable acts of violence against her. Traces of Sierra's DNA were found on the mattress, underwear, and duct tape, while James's DNA was also present. He also gagged her with a dog toy, applying so much force that it broke her tooth, leading to her suffocation. However, James vehemently denied all the allegations against him, claiming that the so-called makeshift dungeon found by police was actually an amateur porn studio he was setting up. He even went so far as to suggest that the gags, ropes, and women's underwear found on the premises were just props. James also tried to explain away the discovery of his helmet at the crime scene as a mere coincidence, insisting that he had left it behind after his bike broke down. As James's trial continued, even more chilling revelations came to light. It turns out that this wasn't the first time James had been involved in a violent incident against a female. On July 4th, 1990, a 26-year-old woman was riding her bike down country roads in Fulton when she was suddenly struck down by a truck. James then emerged from the truck with a screwdriver in hand and forced her into his vehicle. As he was attempting to put handcuffs on her, the woman managed to escape and run for her life. Luckily, a passing motorist saw her distress and came to her aid. James was eventually convicted on abduction charges and served 3 years of a 4 to 10-year sentence. But that was not the end of his troubles with the law. In 2000, he was sent back to prison for growing marijuana and possessing a firearm while on disability. As the trial progressed, even more disturbing information came to light. Recordings from James's sister suggested that he had been a suspect in at least 2 other murders, including the disappearance of a 14-year-old girl back in the 1980s. Police refused to comment on the possibility of James being linked to these crimes, but the implication hung heavily in the air. It was a shocking reminder that James's crimes weren't an isolated incident, but part of a pattern of violence that had gone on for decades. James Worley was eventually found guilty of all charges against him, and the jury recommended the death penalty, a fitting punishment for the horrific crimes he committed against Sierra Jugan. But as the time for his sentencing drew near, Worley had one last chance to speak his mind. He launched into a 45-minute speech proclaiming his innocence. He directed much of his speech towards Sierra's family, taunting them with twisted and inappropriate comments, bizarrely claiming that he doesn't understand
First and foremost, I want to say that myself, my family, everyone that I know is heartbroken for the Joggin family. Make no mistake, he was a beautiful girl, but she was, and I'm glad.
In July 2020, Worley's attorneys filed a motion to overturn his conviction and grant him a new trial. They argued that the government had failed to prove key aspects of the charges and that the jury had been tainted by their familiarity with Worley and the case. Despite the efforts of Worley's lawyers, the appeal was denied by the court, and an execution date of May 20th, 2025 was set for Worley.
In Poland, 240 mines were accidentally sent to an IKEA, and apparently the mishap only came to light when the IKEA store called the military to ask when they were going to pick up these mines from their IKEA warehouse. From this, an army general was fired for losing these mines. Next, we all know about this TikTok ban that is happening. Well, it's kind of backfiring, because thousands and thousands of TikTok users are switching to the Chinese app RedNote, and from this, Duolingo has seen a 216% spike in users in the US learning Mandarin. Finally, stealing has got so bad in some areas, some stores are starting to literally lock up everything, like regular items like chips. So now, you literally have to get an employee just to get a chip back.
Crazy history we're not taught in school. 4 countries tried to claim a new island in the Mediterranean that ended up disappearing again only 6 months later. The first female U.S. senator was also the last congressperson to own slaves. Babyface Nelson ended the lives of more FBI agents than any other criminal in history. For 3 days in 1924, all radio stations went quiet for 5 minutes on the hour, every hour, to listen to messages from aliens, but none were ever detected. The Vatican sent an investigator to determine if Shirley Temple was a 30-year-old posing as a child. There used to be fat men clubs that only let people over 200 pounds in. These clubs declined in popularity as obesity became viewed unfavorably. Before the 1900s, there was a long S character that designated the presence of 2 S's in a row, as seen here on the Bill of Rights. During a recent expedition to find the Loch Ness Monster, a 30-foot model of it was found at the bottom of Loch Ness, which happened to be a lost prop from a 1970s movie.
This is 14-year-old Clea Turner, and after more than a year of being bullied at school, she attempted to end her own life. She died for 8 minutes before paramedics were able to revive her. However, she suffered severe brain damage and remained in a coma for weeks. And according to a new lawsuit filed this month by the girl's family, while Clea was in a coma, one of the bullies allegedly made their way inside the ICU and took multiple photos of her while incubated and posted these pictures on social media, spreading rumors about her injuries. The parents claim that the school failed to protect her, failed to intervene, and didn't take proper action even after the bullying was reported multiple times. And because Clea has been left with potentially permanent disabilities, they are now suing the district and faculty to cover Clea's medical bills, the parents' lost wages while taking care of her, her disability care, and much more. The school has denied the allegations and claimed that its staff took the appropriate steps when dealing with any bullying incidents.
Terrifying games you should play Part 9. The Answer Man game. If you win this game, any questions you might have in life will be answered correctly. But if you play it incorrectly, you'll lose more than just the game. To play this game, you'll need to gather 10 of your friends and have them stand in a loose circle. Each person should pull out their cell phone and call the person to their left at the same time. At this point, one of 2 things will happen. Either all of the phones will go to voicemail, in which case you'll have to try again, or one of the phones will get an answer. The person on the other end of the phone is the mysterious Answer Man. He will answer any questions you have in life correctly, but be warned. For every question you ask him, he will ask you a question as well, and you have to answer truthfully or you'll lose the game. If you cannot answer one of his questions truthfully, he will come for you within the next couple of days and collect his payment in flesh instead. In order to end the game, you must repeat that it is time for the Answer Man to go until he finally hangs up the phone. He will try to argue with you and even offer you bribes to let him stay on the call, but you must stay strong. It's also recommended you destroy the phones after the game. Comment whether or not you would play this game, and follow for more.
That's a hell no for me, man. I've never played any of those freaking games where you gotta try to communicate with a spirit or something like that. I don't need that bad energy around my life, so that's a no! We don't do that over here, Seekers, man. We bring in good, positive vibes only. Keep that negativity away from us, man. At all costs.
Elephants do think you're cute. I was wrong. Okay, not like this. This is still mostly made up, but let me explain, because I low-key gotta hold that one. So you know how humans are the smartest things alive, but because the learning curve is so high, our babies have a self-preservation of a kumquat. It's kind of the same thing with baby elephants. If ignorance is bliss, premature pachyderm live in euphoria. One of the biggest threats to a baby elephant is them literally getting distracted, wandering away, and then losing their mothers forever. Animals use play as preparation for the life they'll live, and it's proven that elephants that play the most as babies have a better chance at life as adults. That's why you'll see these videos of elephants chasing around birds or playing tag with dogs. They're literally wired to be playful. So when they see a human, they often just see another thing they can play with, and since humans aren't usually afraid of a baby elephant, a lot of times they figure out humans give them the best response. So it's not really that elephants think we're cute, it's that baby elephants think everything's cute, including humans. And I wouldn't believe that if I didn't meet a baby elephant myself, and to say she single-handedly hiked my health insurance would be an understatement. What they don't tell you is a baby elephant finding you cute means a car-sized St. Bernard trying to tackle you. She did not know her own strength. They even warn you not to play with her for your own good, because if you do, she'll get excited. And fun fact, when baby elephants get excited, they make noise, and that noise is like a Batman signal to a literal Big Mama, and as cute as you may be, best believe she will not agree. So a baby elephant will really have you running for your health in the best way possible. If you want to see a video of that happening, or you just want to keep up with me in general in case this app does become past tense, Casual Geographic on YT. Appreciate y'all. The more you know. No, but like seriously, don't play with a baby elephant. Whatever it is, they'll break it and take it. Yo, what's up?
Okay.
Here's some scary facts
Lesson learned.
about our world that you probably didn't want to know. Part 41. There's actually something called anesthesia awareness, and I'm not talking about waking up during surgery. I'm talking about you are awake during surgery, but the surgeons can't tell because you can't move your mouth, and you can't move your eyes. So you know what's going on, but they don't. So in the event that your plane actually crashes into an ocean somewhere, flight attendants are specifically asked not to pull dead bodies onto the lifeboat. So if your child, your spouse, or one of your friends dies, you're just gonna have to, kick the body overboard. So aside from the fact that if you're decapitated, your head can move for a certain amount of time off your body, humans can actually live skinned alive for 6 days. 4 if you want to add salt. If you've somehow gotten that situation. And lastly, there's something called a rat king, and it's not a massive rat. It's just a bunch of rats come together with dirt, blood, hair, tails. Ugh.
Now this is truly disturbing.
On The Last of Us?
Watch
Part 2?
Bianca Ellis, a killer, stalks a mother and her young child as they walk out of a grocery store. Notice how Bianca is carrying a knife with her. You won't even believe what happens next. The woman in that video was 32-year-old Bianca Devins. And after she walked off camera in that video, she stabbed a 3-year-old child to death and also stabbed the child's mother, Margot. The victim, 3-year-old Julian Wood, was a normal boy. And according to everyone reporting on this case, he and his mother had no connection to Bianca whatsoever. This was a completely random act of violence. Bianca can be seen in that extended security camera footage brandishing a knife while walking around the store, scoping out potential victims. And then, like I showed you at the beginning, towards the end, she identifies the mother and her son for some reason and follows them out to the parking lot where she stabbed them. Disturbingly, in a recent court appearance, Bianca can actually be seen smiling, laughing, and giggling as charges of murder are read against her. And like I said before, it's unknown why she carried out this attack, and prosecutors right now are saying this was a completely random act of violence. I'm going to keep you guys updated on the story here, but if you want to hear more true crime stories, listen to the podcast that I co-host with my wife, Courtney, Murder in America. It's available on all streaming platforms.
Crazy
That's why I gotta be aware of our surroundings.
A boss let go of a member of his staff because she came back from maternity leave pregnant again. A recall has been issued after Minute Maid sold zero sugar lemonade that contained 40 grams of sugar. This is the most recent and clearest image of Mars that we have. And this is the most recent image of Earth that we have. For the first time in recorded history, which is 130 years, there was no snow on Mount Fuji in November. A 1,000-pound tuna was caught in New Hampshire. Snoop Dogg has confirmed that he has a staff member that makes sure that everyone else doesn't get too high while they're smoking. A man who won an $11 million lottery says he now feels regret for buying houses for his friends that he is no longer in contact with. A popular flat earther YouTuber admitted he was wrong after taking a trip to Antarctica to test the theory of flat earth. An Italian nun was arrested over strong links to a powerful mafia network.
What was that nun doing, bro? She had ties to the mob. Man. That's shocking, bro. Never in a million years, man, would I guessed a nun, man, had ties to the mob, bro. And that maternity leave story is just diabolical as well. Came back pregnant. Did he just let her
X
go?
died 4 years ago on this very day, let's take a second to remember some of his last words. On June 18th, 2018, X went to an ATM to withdraw some cash. As X started driving away, a black SUV started to follow him all the way to a nearby motorsports shop. So X went inside the shop, and after a few hours, he noticed that the black SUV was still in the parking lot. Two men hopped out of the SUV and demanded that X give them his car. As X tried to fight back, he was shot in the neck 3 times. Witnesses claim his last words were something like, "What the F is going on?" but his last verified words were these.
I've gone through my fair share of destruction and pain in the process to get where I've gotten, and anything is possible. If I'm gonna die or ever be a sacrifice, I want to make sure that my life made at least 5 million kids happy. Or they found some sort of answers or resolve in my life. Your mind is limitless. You are worth more than you could believe. All you have to do is dream, and all you have to do is want to fulfill that dream and have the strength to fulfill that.
How old were you when...
Man, it's kind of eerie. It's like X kind of knew, man. We know his music was special. It touched, I say it touched way more than freaking 5 million kids, so he carried out his last words, man. Man, to have like the foresight to kind of sense when you know, scared to think about.
When you realize that shopping carts are the ultimate test of the goodness of mankind. We can all agree that putting your cart away when you're done shopping is the socially and morally correct thing for anyone to do. It's easy, it's convenient, and it's a task that pretty much every human on earth is physically capable of. It is the objectively right thing that anyone should do under any circumstance, save the extremely rare urgent emergency. At the same time, it's not a law or even an enforced rule that people must follow. In this sense, the shopping cart is the pinnacle litmus test as to whether someone will do the right thing without being forced to do it. We don't get punished, fined, or hurt for not putting it away, but we also don't get rewarded for doing so. We simply must return the shopping cart out of the goodness of our hearts because it is the morally right thing to do. Anyone who doesn't is technically no better than a savage animal who can only be made to do what is right no matter how easy and convenient it is by threatening them with punishment. Therefore, the shopping cart is the ultimate determination of universal morality, whether a person is a good or bad member of society, so be a good person. Here's a test.
I'm gonna turn that shopping
If you
cart.
or someone you know has thalassophobia. Thalassophobia is the fear of deep or open water. At level 1, we have this image, and if you look below the baby's feet, you'll realize that you can see nothing. That's what freaks people out, that you can't see anything down there, but there's a feeling like something's watching you from below. If this is making you feel unsettled, don't watch the rest, because level 2 is even worse. At level 2, we have a person falling into an expansive open body of water. To make it even worse, there's a squid-like creature hiding in the corner. At level 3, we have the worst one yet. And it's a person swimming above a gigantic snake-like creature in the water, and we have no idea how big it is. And if you made it this far, level 4, the bonus is this creature. This photo honestly just makes me want to cry. If you survived all the levels, congrats. Make sure you send this video to a friend to see if they can pass the test and follow for more.
This here is
I passed.
Nigel Richards, and he decides to compete in a Spanish Scrabble competition. He doesn't speak Spanish. Let me explain. So Nigel's known for being a professional player at Scrabble. Yes, you heard me, Scrabble. He's so good at it that he holds 5 English world titles. But for Nigel, having titles to back up his family game night skills wasn't enough, and he wanted to compete in another competition. This time in Spanish, except he doesn't know the language. So he spends the next year memorizing the Spanish word list for Scrabble. Thankfully for him, he manages to use the same strategy that he uses for English in Spanish. You see, Nigel never really did well in his English classes. He didn't even attend a university or college. But what he did have was a strong photographic memory, and he could look at a block of words together and see where it goes. Oh, and plot twist, he's competed in another language before. In 2015, he became the French language Scrabble champion. This was without knowing any French prior, and he studied the word list for 9 weeks. And he won it again in 2018. So it was no surprise that he managed to dominate the competition and won the Spanish competition, even defeating the reigning champion of 18 years, Benjamin Alizola. Now, Nigel's considered a legend in the Scrabble community, with tens of thousands of people going online to analyze how he plays. It's basically if Mike Ross pursued Scrabble instead of being a lawyer.
Cum-filled
Damn,
cupcakes
okay.
were served to children by this teacher in Louisiana. Meet Cynthia Perkins, and let me warn you, this story is incredibly disturbing. So back in 2019, investigators were tipped off about this woman, Cynthia, and her husband, Dennis. Apparently, some images had surfaced depicting the couple raping a child. And when investigators finally swept in October of 2019 and arrested the couple, what they found out was disturbing. Cynthia, who at the time of her arrest was a middle school English teacher, had allegedly gotten a sperm sample from her husband, baked that sperm into some cupcakes, and brought the cupcakes into her classroom, where she then served those baked goods to her own students. When the police raided the couple's home, they found hidden cameras in the bathrooms and in the attic, and they uncovered a lot of evidence that the couple had been producing child pornography, with a victim under the age of 13 years old. Cynthia at first was unrepentant and tried to pin this all on her husband, but shortly after they were arrested, she divorced her husband and admitted that she had, yes, taken part in this entire thing, and just last year she was sentenced to over 40 years of prison time. Now, her husband Dennis was actually a sheriff's deputy, and in a completely unrelated case, another woman was found guilty of helping Dennis grape, a woman who was completely unconscious, and yes, they filmed the attack. So these two were serial predators and offenders, and this story just goes to show that these people don't look evil. Predators come in all shapes and sizes, even teachers and cops.
Fun fact, in 2004,
Same.
a secret movie theater was found in the catacombs under Paris. But when the police went to investigate, it was gone, and the only thing left was a note that said, "Do not try and find us." There's 174 miles of caves and tunnels under the city of Paris, and people have been banned from entering the catacombs without a tour guide since 1955. But while on a training exercise in the catacombs, police entered a tunnel where they noticed motion-detected security cameras began recording them, and as they went deeper, an audio recording of dogs barking began to play. And then they found an open area where a movie screen and projector were installed, as well as a fully stocked bar and a restaurant with tables and chairs. The whole area was powered by a professionally installed power cable, and it had 3 telephone lines. 3 days later, the police went back with experts from the French electricity board to see where the power was coming from, but it was all gone. And the only thing left was a note on the floor that said, "Do not try and find us." Hit the link in my bio to check out my crazy underground spaces video.
Why would they have in a freaking underground movie theater in Paris, bro? They don't want them to find them. And like I said, how would they run to that power?
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. An average human walks past 36 murders in their lifetime. There's future biotech technology. When injected into prisoners, it makes them feel they served a 1,000-year sentence in a matter of 8 hours. The blue whale ejaculates over 40 gallons of sperm when mating. Only 10% enters the female. And you always wonder why the sea tasted salty. If you block your nose when you sneeze, you can rupture a blood vessel in your neck that can make you bleed to death. People that are left-handed die 3 years faster than people that are right-handed. Watching horror films can burn up to 200 calories. You may be living the last year of your life without being aware of it. You are always 6 minutes away from death. Breathing just resets the clock. There's a lot more, like for part 9.
That breathing one got to me. I never really thought about it that way.
Times when Gen Alpha words caused the unimaginable to happen. Firstly, schools around the world have been making lists of Gen Alpha words that are banned from being said at school, because not only do teachers claim it's just straight confusing, they're also worried about it disrupting classroom atmospheres. Next, in 2024, Walmart posted an advertisement encouraging viewers to shop for back-to-school fashion, but it immediately backfired when they started using Gen Alpha words to cater to the younger audience.
No cap, you weren't French or Ohio at all.
Well, when the internet came across this, they literally turned the advertisement into a meme. I guess be careful when using Gen Alpha words.
Crazy things
Please
happening
do.
in the world right now. Spike the Chihuahua, born on November 30th, 1999, is the only dog left alive from the previous millennium. A Florida judge used a Quest 2 to experience a crime firsthand. A declassified document from the CIA says they used astral projection to visit Mars 1,000,000 years ago, back in 1984. Taylor Swift did not actually sign a guitar that a man bought for $4,000 just to destroy. A woman was left disappointed after filming what she thought was Northern Lights, when in reality it was actually a tomato factory nearby. A Wisconsin man was found to have faked his own death after being found in Uzbekistan. 43 monkeys still remain on the run from a South Carolina lab. Costco was forced to recall over 80,000 pounds of butter because the label forgot to mention that it had milk. A raccoon burst through the ceiling tiles at LaGuardia Airport. A British man passed away falling off a bridge in Spain while he was creating online content.
This is what would happen if all humans fell asleep for 1 year. After just 5 seconds, all the cars on the road will begin to crash and pile up on each other. This would be a complete mess. Next, just after 1 minute, everybody will be sleeping in the most random places. Like in the doctor's office or a grocery store, or just in the middle of the street. Next up, after 20 minutes, all the planes in the sky will begin to fall back down to Earth. On average, there is 9.7 thousand planes in the sky at once, carrying over 1.2 million people. So this wouldn't be good at all. Next, after 12 hours, millions of people would be dead. This is because whatever activity they were doing before they fell asleep could result in their death, like a car crash, plane crash, or just falling.
Don't fall asleep, man.
This man has a problem of snoring at night, so he sticks a sticker to his mouth. But when his wife removed the sticker, this is what happens.
What the? I saw this the way his mouth was moving. What the? Anything to stop him from snoring, I guess. But
2026 is going to be crazy. Let me explain. So even though 2025 just started, many people online are saying it's just not off to a good start, and they're already ready for 2026. So saying that, let's talk about how crazy 2026 will actually be. Originally we all thought Shrek 5 was supposed to be released in 2025, but now it's pushed back to December 2026. Also in that same month, Ice Age 6 will be released. However, they're not the only movies coming out in 2026, because we also have Toy Story 5, the Mario movie 2, and Avengers Doomsday. It's a lot. Next, some huge events happening in 2026 is the 2026 World Cup and the Winter Olympics. But that's not it, because there will be no total solar eclipse in 2025, but there will be on August 12th, 2026. However, let's still keep our hopes high for the rest of 2025.
Before
got to, man.
in the US, I want to, for the last time, tell you the most beautiful space fact I know. If you aimed a telescope at a blank, dark patch of sky just the size of a pinhead held at arm's length and took a picture, this is what you would see. Virtually every single point of light you see is a galaxy filled with hundreds of billions of stars and trillions of planets. If you visited one of the planets hidden away in this image every single second, it would take you 50 million years to visit them all. That is 1.5 quadrillion planets, just as amazing as Earth, potentially capable of hosting an alien civilization hidden in this tiny patch of sky. If this really is the end of TikTok in the US, just go check me out here. It's more fun anyway.
The TikTok ban has...
Do people really expect, man, the TikTok ban to last that long? I can't believe it got so many people, man. They deleted TikTok off their phone. They trying to freaking add it back, bro. I'm seeing TikToks with that's on the iPhone on eBay for like 20K, bro. I don't get how people didn't see through that script.
Has literally had the opposite effect. China and America have never been closer. Duolingo has seen a 216% spike in American users learning Mandarin and a 36% increase in US downloads as everyone flocks to Red Note. And that's impressive because you know how notorious English speakers are for not learning a second language. They've also started comparing their medical bills. And you can imagine how that went down. And after he said that an ambulance in China was $50 and $10 for an appointment and painkillers, bro somehow signs off with Luigi.
At the end, salute to Luigi and wish
The best for y'all. Americans have also been asking if the social credit score is a real thing there, if China actually has a video game time limit ban, and if Timu was just a bunch of children that needed saving. You've got people on this app now pledging their allegiance to communist China. Red Note is literally what the US government feared TikTok would become, and they created this.
She was killed by her own.
Man.
This is what happened to 30-year-old Annie Mae of Quash. Annie Mae was born on March 27, 1945, and was born into the McClock First Nation. Annie Mae was a part of the American Indian movement, and she was just extremely passionate about human rights and the preservation of tribal communities. She was a mother of two, so she was fighting for her children's safety and future. Throughout her time with the American Indian movement, she was arrested on federal weapons-related charges, but she was quickly released. She was arrested for a second time in November of 1975. However, she was released just 10 days later on November 25th. Due to how quickly she was released, some members of the American Indian movement started to believe that maybe she was working as an informant for the FBI, and that's why she was released so quickly. The last time anyone saw Annie Mae was in the middle of December, and then just 2 months later, on February 24th, 1976, a farmer in South Dakota stumbled upon a frozen, badly decomposed body. His farm was located along the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and this corpse was wearing blue jeans, a maroon jacket, and they were laying with their knees pushed up all the way to their chest. Police were called to the scene, and a coroner determined that this was a woman and that they had been dead for more than 2 months. Due to the condition of the body, it took a little bit over a week for police to identify this corpse as 30-year-old Annie Mae of Quash. Initially, they believed that she died of exposure, that she froze to death. They buried her, and that was that. When her family and friends heard the news about her death, they were just completely shocked. They were trying to figure out what had happened since the last time she was seen in December to when her body was found in February. I mean, what happened in those 2 months? They just had a gut feeling that something more had happened. They requested a second autopsy. They exhumed her body, and this new autopsy revealed that Annie Mae had a gunshot wound to the back of her head. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't the consequence of exposure. Annie Mae was murdered. Her friends and family initially believed that maybe the FBI had done this to silence her. However, it was later revealed that no, the FBI didn't do this. Instead, she was kidnapped, R-worded, and unalived on December 12, 1975 by 3 members of the American Indian movement. Her family just couldn't believe that she was betrayed by those she trusted and by people she believed had her back. As of today, someone has been convicted for the murder of Annie Mae and has been sentenced to life in prison, but were more people involved? Her family believes that maybe higher-level officials at the American Indian movement could have ordered her death because they truly believed that she was an FBI informant. It's been nearly 30 years since Annie Mae, a mother, a sister, a beloved friend, a human being, was killed. To hear more about what happened to Annie Mae, make sure to watch Vow of Silence on Hulu to uncover the truth, and let me know what you guys think about it.
The Bajau people found on the waters of Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines lived their entire lives on houseboats. It's understood they've retained this lifestyle for around 1,000 years. They spend most of the day diving into the ocean, hunting fish and other sea creatures. But here's where things get really interesting. They can hold their breath underwater for up to 13 minutes and dive as far down as 60 meters. Due to the pressure of the water that far down, some actually pierce their eardrums, which is actually really bad for them. Some of them go deaf. Now, the reason they're able to hold their breaths underwater for so long is because they evolved larger spleens in comparison to other humans, providing more oxygen to their blood. Their spleens tend to be at least 50% larger than ours. Isn't that interesting?
The strangest...
That's basically like a land that's confirmed, right? Maybe they descendants of them, man, from way in the past, bro. So if you can dive that deep and they hold their breath that long, and they're born that way too, so there's some extra attributes that got me thinking, man, that they had some relatives from from Atlantis back in the day, bro. You never know.
Fact about each zodiac sign. Okay, firstly, it's scientifically proven that if you're a Gemini, you're good at lying. So the next time you're around a Gemini, you might not want to believe everything they say. Alright, next, if you're a Taurus, the strangest fact about you guys is you all are known to be stalkers. The scary thing is, you might never know they're doing this. Now, this one creeps me out. Out of all the signs, Scorpios are the ones who have the most dark and creepy thoughts. But my question is, what do you all be thinking about? Well, if that wasn't bad enough, cancers are proven to be the most dangerous. They get arrested the most, and the crimes are usually pretty serious. I'm sorry to say, but if you're a Leo, it's proven that you guys are the worst drivers. Finally, this is probably the most unusual fact of them all. If you're an Aries, it's said that you are obsessed with death. This just doesn't sit right with me.
Here's three things you need to understand about polar bears. They're one of the few animals that will actively hunt humans, as in track you down and put you on a meal prep if they're desperate enough. And unlike other bears, polar bears are hypercarnivores, meaning they don't do the bugs and berries thing. Now, for them, it's all meat all the time. Which leads to the next fact, and it's that they're bloodhounds on steroids. A polar bear can sniff out a seal for well over 10 miles, and they can even smell one through 3 feet of ice. They'll smell you long before they see you, which is why if you do see a polar bear, it's probably already too late. There's a good chance it's been plotting on you for a minute. And number 3, studies say one way to survive a polar bear encounter is to remove articles of clothing and drop them one at a time. That way the Caucasian killer will get distracted and stop to examine them. Which sounds great until you remember, you can't outrun, outswim, or even dig deep enough to hide from one. And they live in hell frozen over. So you either get to freeze to death and die naked, or wait for the bear to eventually track you down like Liam Neeson. Moral of this video, if it's black, attack. If it's brown, get on the ground. If it's white like the president, you finna be heaven sent.
Okay, stay away from polar bears. Noted. I didn't know, man, that they were freaking bloodhounds like that. The more you know, man. See, won't drop your clothes, bro. Drop them drawers. You gotta survive. You know what that says.
This girl started going blind until scientists discovered.
Horned lizards squirt blood from their eyes. The Devil's Bible is a real book. If the sun exploded, you would not know about it for 8 minutes. 20% of children report hearing voices.
Dirty facts about history that school probably didn't teach you. Part 2. A French president died from a blowjob. My man Felix Faure literally got his soul sucked out of him. He was both coming and going. The deadliest female serial killer in American history had murdered 35 people with an axe by the time she was 18 years old. When the ruler of Poland, Jadwiga, was considering a marriage proposal from the Grand Duke of Lithuania, her peers were worried because it was rumored that he had massive genitals and would kill his wife on the wedding night. They ended up sending 2 spies to Lithuania to find out if it was true, and they came back and happily reported that there was nothing to worry about. Powdered wigs were originally invented to cover up head sores caused by syphilis. The first person to examine semen under a microscope was Antony van Leeuwenhoek, the father or daddy of microbiology.
Urban legends caught on camera.
And now I guess he became a legend because of that, bro. Oh, these facts, bro, are tripping me out. Would you guys survive the rake? Or was that just a clever edit? You know that's wrong. It's 2025, baby. We made it, man.
If a mother was caught having an affair with her son, they were both burned to death. This was one of the 282 official laws of the Code of Hammurabi, one of the first ever written set of laws in history dating back to 1750 BC in ancient Babylon. And yo, these laws get absolutely wild. If a man ever broke another man's bone, by law, he would have to have that same bone broken on him. If a son ever hit his father, the code demanded that the son's hands be cut off. If a son simply told his father, "You're not my dad," the law stated that the son would need to get his tongue cut off. If a home was ever robbed, the thief would need to be taken back to the home, killed there, and then buried. Hey, I don't want no thief dying in my house. If a wife was ever caught cheating, law stated that her and the cheater would need to be tied up and thrown into a river. If a man ever killed a pregnant woman, then his daughter would be put to death. I don't get the logic here, but that's what it was. If a wife ever cooked a dinner that didn't taste good, then her husband would have to backhand her in the face. Nah, I'm joking, I made that up. but crimes that couldn't be proven would be placed under trial. Except their trials consisted of the accused jumping into a river. If they drowned and died, they were considered guilty, and then the accuser would have legal possession of their home. But if they swam to safety, then the accuser would instead be put to death, and the accused would have legal possession of their home. Man, we come a long way. Think about these next time you're paying for a parking ticket.
We have, bro. Those
Most Scary
balls
Urban
today.
Legends, Part
Let 'em go.
6. This is Krasu. She's a Thailand legend. She's a female spirit who wanders the fields at night. At first you would just see her face, until you look down and she has no body, and just her internal organs. Her guts are usually covered with fresh red blood. Her face appears to look somewhat like a vampire's. She has very sharp teeth, and sometimes has a blue halo around her head. She is always hungry for meat, whether that be animal meat or human meat. Before she goes hunting, she hides her headless body somewhere safe, and she needs to come back to it before sunrise. And then she becomes a normal person again for the day with no differences from anybody else. One of her origins was that she was a princess who was forced to marry a high-ranked Seminese member who killed her people in battle. But she loved somebody else and was caught with it by the Seminese member. She was then sentenced to be burned alive. She then asked the witch for help, who summoned a spell on her immune to fire, but the spell worked too late, and everything was burned besides her internal organs and head.
Krasu. Be aware.
They say if you see this tree, your day is going to be ruined. Which is impossible because this tree is extinct. This is the lepidodendron tree, or the scale tree, which thrived during the Carboniferous period and went extinct at the end of the Permian some 250 million years ago. These trees were found in more tropical areas and could grow up to 160 feet tall and had these signature diamond-shaped scale impressions on their bark. According to the story, if you do see one of these trees, you may have gone through a rip in the fabric of space and time. Now, there are no shortage of videos out there with people claiming they've seen this thing, getting it on video, showing a weird-looking tree, but none of these are actually a lepidodendron tree. As it turns out, this started making the rounds online after this meme was created in late 2023, resulting in tons of people filming trees or cell phone towers. They kind of look like a lepidodendron, but they really weren't. However, with all of the experiments that CERN has been doing lately, maybe there's actually something strange going on in the fabric of space and time. And if you do find one of these trees, remain calm.
Be careful who you're...
Never seen one of those trees before, man, but I guess now I'm gonna be on the lookout, bro. Like you said, man, the things CERN been messing with, who knows, they could have opened, like I said, a rip into the space and time portal, and we could have went in and we would have never known. Be on the lookout for those trees.
alone with in Japan. You might run into a Honeona. In Japanese mythology, the Honeona, or Bone Woman, is a spirit whose face, hands, and neck appear to be that of a young, attractive female. However, the rest of her body bears no flesh at all. She uses her beauty to seduce young, unsuspecting men, luring them to a dark and secluded spot. Once they're alone, however, she reveals her true form to her victim, sucking his life force energy and leaving him as nothing more than a pile of dust. Other legends claim that the Honeona are the spirits of young women who have died but cannot move on from their lovers in life. To their loved ones, they appear as a beautiful young woman, and they visit them every night, but everyone else can see their true form. But every time they visit their loved ones, they suck some of their energy, until eventually they die or someone intervenes. Comment, I do not claim any negative energy from this video, and follow for more.
Energy vampire, bro. That's what it sound like. Just feed off your energy until, like you said, you're nothing but some bone. You can interpret that in different ways, man. We learned it today. We know what that is.
Urban legends from around the world. The Green Theater, located in the city Kyiv in Ukraine. It is said that this land was originally a burial site for suicide victims and unborn babies. This site was also once a fortress. There are hundreds of miles of catacombs under the ground. There's been a ton of unexplained accidents that occurred here, including countless building fires. Local legend says that there is a portal to another world down in the catacombs. Now home to a popular venue that you can actually buy tickets to for 2021. What country is next?
This video is going to show you how the world is actually doing better than
than ever. Nearly half of all children in the world were dying before their 5th birthday in the year 1800, and now that is less than 5%. You can see here that only 10% of adults in the year 1800 could read and write, and now that number is almost 90. 100 years ago, basically nothing was protected on Earth, and now almost 15% of the entire Earth is protected by national parks. Smoke particles in the air have gone down by over half. In just 35 years, the share of people with water has gone up 30%. Equal rights for women has become the standard in just a little over a century. Battle deaths per 100,000 people has gone down quite a lot. This shows a drastic improvement of how much oil is actually being spilled into the ocean. Deaths from disasters are way down. And world hunger is constantly on the downfall. We still have a lot of work to do, but the world is not all that bad. Scrolling on social media or watching the news can make it really hard sometimes to feel like anything in the world is actually going right. But when we're able to just take a breath, take a moment, and try and see things from a different perspective, there's a lot of good in the world to see, and we don't have a lot of time on Earth to enjoy it. Facts that will mess with your perception of time. Sharks are older than the rings of Saturn by hundreds of millions of years. If you were given $10,000 every single day since the pyramids were built, you would only have about 6% of Elon Musk's entire wealth. To give a clear picture of the difference between a million and a million seconds ago was a little over a week ago. A billion seconds ago was the year 1990. Jimmy Carter was the first president to be born in a hospital. Obama was the first president born under the same American flag he served as president under. Harriet Tubman was born in Thomas Jefferson's lifetime and died in Reagan's. There were Greek playwrights who wrote shows nearly 2,000 years before Shakespeare was even alive. Follow for more.
He just cooked? So Shakespeare was fake, man?
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. One of your photos that you have today will be used in your funeral. There are more slaves today than any other time in history. According to the founder of the Walk Free Foundation, there are 46 million slaves in the world today. Your eyes can still move after your death for 15 to 30 seconds. Watching TV for more than 2 hours a day can shorten your life expectancy by 1.4 years. In 1977, we received a radio signal from space that lasted 42 seconds. To this day, no one knows where that signal came from. A lit candle causes more than 15,000 house fires every year. Spider rain could happen at any moment above you. Bill Skarsgård, who played Pennywise in the 2017 version of It, was born in 1990, the year the original It was released. Yeah.
It's like it was lined up for him, bro. Like, do you know how, like, I guess the coincidence of that happening, he being born the year It came out and he played the clown? Some things just line up in the universe.
We talked about the satanic idol from the Warrens Museum, but today we're talking about the Doll of Shadows. According to Ed Warren, this doll was created with the intent of causing harm through dark rituals. The face is made out of a papier-mâché material, while the mouth is fitted with a single human tooth on the inside. Black feathers are placed on top of the doll's head, while nails and animal bones protrude from the doll itself. The story behind it is a young couple of doll collectors pick up this item from an antique dealer, who practically gives it away to them. I mean, warning sign number 1. On the first night that the couple brings the doll home, they go to bed and everything is normal, until both of them experience a series of horrific nightmares. And when they wake up, it's claimed that there's scratches all over their bodies. The following night, they experience another series of nightmares. Except this time, they wake up with distinct claw marks all over their bodies. Fearing that things will only continue to amplify, they reach out to the Warrens. Ed goes to their home and they just say, take it, just take it. And ever since, the doll has remained in the care of the Warrens. Over the years, Ed shared the process of how this doll would be used. It's claimed that somebody practicing dark magic would first take a photo of the doll. The photo would be printed, and on the back, a curse would be written. That photo would then be sent to the victim. Through the gesture of the recipient opening the envelope, it was symbolic of them accepting the curse that was written on the back of the photo. Furthermore, once that recipient saw the image of the doll, that meant the doll could then be projected into their dreams. But none of y'all tried to send me a photo with this doll and some scribble on the back. I'm not playing that game. Ed stated that the doll couldn't just be destroyed, since it acts as a vessel for the negative entity. So that brings us to, what item do you want to talk about next? A big thank you to those who recommended this topic on the last video. And aside from paranormal, I love all things true crime, spooky, unusual. So if you have any other suggestions on videos that you'd like to see, please feel free to comment below.
Oh, burn that joint. Get that away from me. I don't do no creepy ass dolls. I'm so bad. I do not allow, man. And I want to have like some bad creepy energy to it too. Nah.
The only way that you can get rid of it is by hugging it, so that you can untie its bonds. Fooling around with me, this son bitch will be here forever. Majority of these souls come back just to take care of unfinished business. It seeks for the living to untie its body so that it can be released. This is the legendary ghost by the name of Pocong. You can find them in Indonesia and also Malaysia. Their bodies have to be tied in 7 different places in order to stay intact. The Indonesian people also stated that these motherfuckers can hop, float, and teleport, and they are highly aggressive. The thing is, it's very popular for people to dress up as Pocong on Halloween. Don't jump out on me. I'm letting y'all know now. My heart weak. I wouldn't be able to take that shit. I got something for you. Wanna scare a grown man? I got that heat for your ass. This is really some scary urban legend shit. They believe after a person dies, their soul will wander Earth for 40 days. Now just imagine that you're walking in a graveyard, 12 o'clock in the morning, and you see a tall white body bag jumping towards you like an Easter bunny. What's your next move?
Deuces, bitch.
On Halloween night in 1974, Ronald Clark O'Brien poisoned his own children's Halloween candy by lacing large pixie sticks with cyanide. After a night full of trick-or-treating, the family returns home where Ronald tells his children that they could each have one piece of candy before bed. And horrifically, his 8-year-old son Timothy chooses to eat the pixie stick. Just when you think that this case can't get worse, it does, because when 8-year-old Timothy opens the pixie stick and starts to eat it, he complains immediately that it tastes bitter because of the cyanide, and his father had the heart to just look at this little face and tell him, "I'll get you Kool-Aid to wash it down," very well knowing what was going to happen. Ronald would later tell police from the moment that he gave Timothy the Kool-Aid and shut the door, it took only 30 seconds until Timothy started to cry, "Daddy, Daddy, my stomach hurts." He was in the bathroom, convulsing, vomiting, and gasping, and then suddenly he went limp. Tragically, on the way to the hospital, Timothy passes away less than an hour after eating the candy. Immediately, this crime sent shockwaves through the community, initially sparking widespread fear that a stranger had tampered with the candy. However, suspicion quickly fell on Ronald when investigators uncovered his financial troubles, since he was more than $100,000 in debt and recently took out life insurance policies on both his children. During the investigation, it was discovered that he had also handed out more poisoned candy to other children that night, but fortunately, none of them consumed it. Prior to Halloween night, police discovered that Ronald had contacted multiple chemical companies to buy cyanide and even jokingly asked them how much it would take to end somebody's life. In 1975, Ronald O'Brien was convicted of murder and was later executed by lethal injection in 1984. Although he never admitted guilt, and even in his last words, he denied any wrongdoing. Ultimately, his crime left a lasting mark on Halloween in America, fueling paranoia around tainted candy for years to come. In the end, I'm glad that this monster got what he deserves. I can't comprehend what kind of person could harm any kid, let alone their own kid. And as always, follow along if you're a fan of all things interesting and brutal.
The picture you see first reveals what kind of person you are. Up first is this picture right here. If you just see a normal explosion, then you're the kind of person that gets scared very easily. You also hate fighting and try to avoid any conflict. But if you saw the couple kissing first, you're the kind of person that really wants a relationship, and you constantly think about your loved ones. Up next is this picture right here. If you saw a woman's face and a baby's face first, it means that you are very warm and loving, and you're probably the nicest person out of your friend. But if you saw the man's face in the tree first, you're a very energetic person, and you're always on the move trying to go do something.
This guy said that he worked.
What did you guys see first, man, for those pictures? I saw the woman's faces and I guess the couple in the explosion, bro. Any determinants? Can that really tell what type of person you are?
'Cause I really want to relate to this. I've been thinking about this for a while. 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 I've been thinking about this for a while.
Who knows?
As a funeral director assistant for about 10 years, and he had a scary incident happen to him at home. He woke up one night needing to use the restroom. There was a long hallway to the restroom, and he would usually walk in the dark since he had done it many times. This one instance though, as he began to walk in the hallway, it felt cold in the hallway, and then he felt a rush of cold air hit him. He then felt something swirl around his body, grab his neck, and pick him up, where he was trying to balance himself on his toes. He couldn't breathe or move, and he heard growling. In his right ear, he heard it speaking in a god-awful voice. He tried to recite the Our Father prayer, but he couldn't speak, and the words weren't coming to him. He said that after the ghost/demon spoke to him, it let go, and he fell to the floor. He was shaking, and he wanted to scream to wake up other family members, but he didn't, because they all had work and school the following day. He asked many priests about the situation. The common theme was that it may have been something demonic.
Sure sounds like it. Grabbed and choked him?
Morbid Facts, Part 475. Earlier this year, 21-year-old Texas woman Juniper Bryson was charged with attempting to sell her newborn baby on Facebook. She agreed to sell her newborn to the highest bidder, but was only hoping for $200. Bryson was messaged by various people and told them she just needed enough money to pay for her DoorDash food and to move into a new apartment. She was reported to police by a couple she blocked on Facebook for asking if they could adopt her baby the legal way. Studies have shown that obese drivers are 80% more likely to die in a car accident than drivers who are not overweight. Earlier this year, 2 Brazilian influencers drowned during a yacht party after the boat was capsized by a massive wave. The women likely would have survived the tragedy had they worn life jackets, but reportedly didn't want to ruin their tans in selfies. If you were to remove all the blood vessels in your body and tie them together, they would stretch across the entire circumference of the earth 2 to 4 times. In 2023, a woman's leg became trapped at the end of a movable walkway at an airport in Thailand. Her leg was so deeply stuck that emergency crews had no choice but to amputate it below the knee in order to free her. She was quickly rushed to a nearby hospital where doctors were unable to reattach her leg.
Man, that's scary, bro. See, that's what I said. I remember as a kid, I always used to be scared of those moving elevators, those escalators. I remember one time I got actually stuck in the theater, bro, because I refused to go there, and I said, I ain't going down there, bro. I had to take the stairs to go all the way down because I refused to get on that. I sensed something was wrong with those things, man. I know I can't be the only one. You know what that is. Don't have to say it. We expert level. We passed this.
I'll never look at Pokemon the same after this. An unknown perpetrator recently managed to hack into Game Freak's documents and released countless files, including future game data, personal info about employees, and most notoriously, lore stories about sexual relationships between humans and Pokemon. One such story involves a young girl who is kidnapped by a Typhlosion disguised as a human, that apparently proceeds to grape the child and get her pregnant with a human-Pokemon hybrid. Another story involves a group of humans that capture and torture a bunch of slack-offs. One of the women in the group is later kidnapped by the slack-off tribe and impregnated by their slacking leader, eventually giving birth to her own slack-off baby. Similar disturbing stories detail human relationships with Lapras, Rapidash, and Octillery. Game Freak has reportedly apologized to everyone affected by the data breach. But it's unclear why these particular unsettling stories were ever written in the first place, let alone found among Game Freak's files.
Who's writing some creepy
The
fan
strangest
fiction?
places in the world, part 1. Firstly, on top of a hill in Pennsylvania, some stones can be found that shouldn't actually be there, because there's no nearby high terrain where they could have originated. These are called the ringing rocks, because whenever something hits these stones, they make a strange ringing noise. Next is the petrifying well in England, where water flows from a rock and turns whatever it touches into stone. As you can see, people often leave items like hats, teddy bears, or even bicycles, which appear to have already been turned into stone. Some people believe there's a mystical power, but the scientific reason behind this is the unusually high mineral content in the water, which forms a hard mineral shell on any object it comes into contact with. And within a few months, everything essentially becomes a stone statue.
Normal looking photos that have a disturbing backstory. Part 28. While this appears to be a book with typical wear and tear, the damage at the bottom is from a bullet hole. The math book belongs to 10-year-old Uzziah Garcia, who along with 18 other students died in the Robb Elementary School shooting that occurred just a few months ago. This mirror selfie shows Giovanni Bezerra, a Brazilian anesthetist, who was arrested after assaulting a pregnant woman during her C-section. He heavily sedated her and placed his private part in her mouth for 10 minutes, and is seen in a hidden camera wiping her face with gauze after he was done. This photo shows a group of US airmen who were taken as prisoners of war by Japanese soldiers in 1945. 8 of the 11 men were dissected while they were still alive, and the 3 others were placed in custody. This photo shows Michael and Susan Kuhnhausen after being married for 18 years. In 2006, Michael hired a hitman to kill his wife. However, Susan choked the man with her bare hand, saying, "Tell me who sent you here, and I'll call you an ambulance."
Oh, she said, "You ain't taking me out."
This is the most dangerous demon that you could summon right now. The demon's name is Zozo. It also goes by Zaza, I just thought I'd mention that. This demon is most commonly summoned by Ouija boards, but because of what Zozo does to you, you really do not want to summon it. You see, when Zozo is successfully summoned, he has just one goal. And that goal is to possess the person that summoned him. Once possessed, he will drive you to madness. And then if Zozo is successful, your life will be over, if you get what I'm saying. Now, contact with the demon Zozo has actually been documented over the years. In 1951, a boy named Ronald Doe was allegedly possessed by Zozo after using a Ouija board. And as recently as 2019, a YouTuber named Kyle allegedly made contact with Zozo, and some extremely creepy stuff ended up happening after his contact with the demon. Now, I personally will be attempting to contact Zozo on live tomorrow. Here's the event if you want to check it out. I'll be using a Ouija board and I'll be seeing if I can actually get Zozo to show up.
Hell no. I ain't going up to that event. I got it, man. I see what he been doing, bro. He literally said what he does to the people who try to summon him, and you're gonna do it anyway. Use your head, bro. Use your head, bro. Expert level. We know this, man.
Man, I knew it, y'all. So it came out that the reason why this man unalived his mother, the mother of his child, and his cousin is because he was DL. And it came out, and for somebody found out. I think at one point maybe the baby mama found out, and the information just kind of spread it. But according to what they're saying, he was actually on his way to unalive someone else. Now, this all happened within the time frame of 9 hours, y'all. He was on his way to unalive another person. After he unalived 3 women, he was on his way to unalive someone else when he got into a standoff with law enforcement and ended up being unalived because he was on a rampage. This is sad, y'all. This is sad. Be your true self. Be your true self. Why would you unalive people because you're afraid to be who you are? And when people find out what you're doing, you unalive them. According to what happened, y'all, this man, according to what I looked into, it has been confirmed that this man was DL. It's just so sad. Rest in peace to his mother, his cousin, and the mother of his child, who was pregnant.
She escaped with a second to spare.
This is powerful.
The drama unfolded at 2 in the morning when the woman arrived home from a long day at work. She says she noticed the stranger lurking outside her building.
So the 50-year-old woman who was seen in that video has to this day still remained unidentified. And on September 23rd, 2021, she was returning home when this man suddenly decided to charge at her. The woman later claimed that she had seen the man and a friend hanging out acting sketchy at the base of her apartments, and that if she hadn't have locked her door the same way that she did and gotten in the nick of time, she still doesn't know what could have happened. I mean, this video is honestly horrifying. I can't imagine someone chasing me to my apartment door and barely being able to lock the door in time to keep them outside. Who knows what this person would have done if they had gotten into the apartment with this woman? It's really frightening. So police at first had no idea who this guy was, but they eventually identified him as 42-year-old Orisha Lucky, and he had 37 prior arrests on his record before that night.
37 different arrests. So after Orisha was arrested, he was charged with attempted burglary, harassment, and criminal trespassing. But it's still, that video is just so frightening, and it really is scary to think of what could have happened if she didn't get the door closed and locked just in time.
What if you had a fetus
Toxic.
growing inside of your skull right now and you had no idea? In China, an unborn twin was found inside of the skull of a 1-year-old child. This led to more research in fetus in fetu, where the twins fuse and then only one of them kind of undergo development. And in this case, the other one's in their skull. Also, as you can see behind me, this is what they pulled out of the brain. It's about the size of a hand from what I can tell. Maybe a little smaller than a hand. I see some fingers up over here. But that's still pretty significant in size to be inside of your brain like that. And the x-rays just look wild. I'm curious to see how this affected the other twin. Did it have any cognitive impairments on the other one? Did it hurt at all or something? I'm just surprised the other twin's body, while undergoing development, didn't dissolve the twin and kind of consume them. That's apparently a thing that happens when twins fuse. The other one kind of absorbs the weaker one. But this thing looks like it came out of Stranger Things, like season 2, when Will like puked that thing into the sink. Also looks like a sandworm from Dune or Jabba the Hutt. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
Man, that did look like something straight out of a horror movie. I don't know how that young boy survived. And it was in his skull too? That's why they had to do research on it. Seems like because it baffled them as well. You know what that is.
Genuinely looking like the end of days in LA this morning. Satellite images today show some jaw-dropping before and afters, with entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble. And only 2 days in, without any signs of slowing down, it has already become the most destructive fire ever to hit Los Angeles County. And depending on how bad things get, some reports are even talking about it becoming the most expensive in US history too. This is because just some of the 7 current fires are tearing through some of the most expensive land in the entire country, including the Palisades and the iconic Hollywood Hills. Both are currently 0% contained, with authorities saying currently there is just no possibility of bringing them under control. A bunch of celebrities, including Paris Hilton and Miles Teller, have had their houses burnt to the ground, with actor Steve Guttenberg calling the disaster the Great Equalizer. And just to make matters worse, Pasadena has issued an urgent alert saying that their water might be unsafe to drink, and the LA District Attorney was forced to threaten prosecution of people who are now using the crisis as an opportunity to loot, rob, and scam victims affected by the fires. As always, I'll keep you guys updated.
Come on, man. People gotta be better. A natural disaster's going on, you thinking, yeah, this is a good time to loot. People always trying to take advantage of chaos. Never fails.
I usually hate speaking about cases that involves innocent children, but this one really needs a lot of attention right now. 5-year-old Mercedes Lozoya was a victim of extreme torture and abuse. Mercedes lived with her mother, Katrina Mendoza, who recently moved in with her boyfriend, Jose Ruiz. On February 7th, 2022, Katrina brought Mercedes, who was unresponsive, to Southwest General Hospital in San Antonio. The doctors did try to save Mercedes, but unfortunately, she did pass away shortly after she arrived to the hospital. Mercedes' body was extremely swollen, and she did have a lot of bruises and cuts. She also had visible sections of her hair missing that appear to have been torn out. I really didn't want to mention this part, but Mercedes was also forced to eat dog feces. According to close family, the abuse towards Mercedes first began when she was born. Mercedes' father's side of the family explains that Katrina always had a lot of anger towards Mercedes, and she did favor her other child a lot more. They also said that they always noticed bruises and cuts on Mercedes' body, and they tried to get custody of her so many times, but they were unsuccessful. Katrina really tried to dismiss all the responsibility and blame everything on her boyfriend, Jose, and said that he was the one who was responsible for Mercedes' death. Both Katrina Mendoza and Jose Ruiz were arrested and charged with injury to a child, but this case is fairly new, so I will keep an eye on it and I will update you guys with anything that comes out.
It's justice, bro.
There's a really strange missing persons case happening right now out of Utah. Let's talk about it. This is 21-year-old Elizabeth Green. She was last seen walking to work along a dirt road in Callio, Utah, which is an extremely remote area in northern Snake Valley. Like, there really isn't much out there, and the area she went missing is roughly 3 hours from any major city. Elizabeth had just started a new job at a remote ranch, and she was walking there that day, but never made it, and it's almost like she vanished into thin air. She was reported missing to the police later that day, and they began looking for her right away. Authorities have searched the area around her home and the ranch that she was going to work at, including the route that she would have taken to get there, but no trace of Elizabeth has been found. Police searched the ranch, which has not been publicly named, just one day after Elizabeth was reported missing, but according to them, they didn't find anything suspicious. The rancher said that she never made it to the ranch that day and that he had no contact with her, so it's left authorities wondering what truly happened to her that day. Police have tried pinging her phone, but they aren't able to get a connection, and they've searched all of her electronic devices, but they've all turned up nothing. There's been no activity on her social media accounts since that day either. Her mom thinks that Elizabeth could have possibly been picked up that day, but she just doesn't know by who. There's also a possibility that she arranged to have someone pick her up, but they didn't show, which could have led to Elizabeth trying to walk through the remote desert by herself. According to her family, she does suffer from some mental health issues and has ran away before, but no matter what, she's always stayed in contact with her family and she's always come back within a day. She would never just up and leave like this. Just based on the circumstances, police believe that she's in immediate danger. Like I mentioned before, Callio is extremely remote and so far away from any major city, so the fact that she just mysteriously disappeared and left behind no trace in a matter of hours is just terrifying. It's now been over a month and Elizabeth is still missing. With the summer weather coming up, we need to find out what really happened to her that day. These are some of her characteristics and what she was last seen wearing. If you have any information about this case, please contact the number on the screen.
So I found these conspiracy theories that are so believable they actually might be true. Part 2. Number 1. An unknown super predator in the ocean. There was a 3-meter long great white shark that was tagged. 2 hours later, a fast-paced dive was recorded, and it was too deep for great whites. There was a temperature shift that went from 46 Fahrenheit to 78. That is a temperature that can only be achieved inside the belly of another living animal. Now, we all know that killer sharks kill sharks, orcas. But let's not forget that orcas are technically whales. They breathe air. They don't go that deep into the ocean. Number 2, The Simpsons 9/11 attack prediction. In 1997, The Simpsons released this episode predicting a 9/11 event at the World Trade Center in New York. When they reached, there were Jews outside staring at the towers waiting for something to occur. This was released 4 years before the actual incident. No comment. Number 3, Courage, the Cowardly Dog. Muriel and Eustace were turned into puppets at the end of the first season. He had full control over his owners, and all the other episodes were completely the dog's imagination. My childhood just got destroyed. This one shocked me the most. Number 4, Amber Heard's lawyer. In the 2013 film premiere of The Long Ranger, there was a fan holding a camera hoping to get a picture with the star himself. So the theory is, she was in on it the whole time. She's obsessed with Johnny. This is dangerous. What's the creepiest conspiracy theory that you heard of?
Maybe that aliens are real. That's the creepiest one I've heard. You guys think you have any story seekers? You know what to do. I'd love to check them out. The Amber Heard's lawyer theory one got to me though. They were similar, so. And we know how people are about celebrities. They are obsessive.
This case was brought to my attention as not a lot of people are talking about it. 27-year-old Gahar Reamer Weeb, who went by George, and if I mispronounce that name, please correct me in the comments. He was found deceased in a field back in June of 2020. His remains were so brutal that it took investigators 10 days to identify who he was. After they had made the identification, they quickly deemed that this was a homicide. After making their first arrest, they quickly were told that George was tortured for 3 consecutive days until he took his last breath. 3 more arrests have been made since then. The last arrest was actually just last week. From what reports have said, they believe that only 4 people were involved, and so far 4 people have been arrested, so I believe that George's family can finally seek justice.
Yeah. What happened, bro?
I don't know about y'all, but this is more than just a little spooky. Pure evidence.
Hello, my friend. Those aren't skulls discovered in Africa, but they are still very cool, as these are actually skulls created by an artist named Takeshi Yamada. He's known for creating some very interesting things. I love his creations. And of course he's created a range of very interesting skulls. As always, come talk to me on Discord. We've been having some cool discussions today, and I've been sharing some AI art. This is an AI depiction of a jinn from Islam and Arabian folklore. To talk on my Discord, check pinned.
You always be exposing the truth, man. It
They
tells
had
like
no
it
idea
is.
that this casual trip to the Palace of Versailles would turn into something that defied all explanation. Somehow they managed to travel more than 100 years into the past and found themselves surrounded by people and landmarks that no longer existed. On the newest episode of My Dark Corner, my new podcast, I talk about the Moberly Jourdain incident. If you've never heard about this, it's a case of possible time travel. Charlotte Moberly, the principal of St. Hugh's College in Oxford, decided to take a trip to France and visit the vice principal candidate, Eleanor Jourdain, in order to see if they'd be a good fit working together. After spending days exploring various landmarks, they decided to take a trip to the Palace of Versailles. They weren't expecting much. They thought it would be a pretty uneventful day, but things took a very strange turn. As they wandered deeper into the gardens in search of the Petit Trianon, the atmosphere shifted. The air felt heavy, the sounds of tourists disappeared, and the world around them seemed different. They passed several people dressed in old-fashioned clothing, like 2 men who wore gray-green coats and 3 cornered hats. At first, they assumed these men were gardeners, but something about the scene didn't feel right. As they walked on, they felt an overwhelming sense of anxiety and depression, like they'd stepped into a dreamlike haze. Then, as they neared what they believed to be the Petit Trianon, Charlotte noticed a woman sitting near the terrace sketching. Now, this woman looked eerily similar to Marie Antoinette. She was wearing an oversized hat and a light summer's dress that looked centuries out of place. Just as suddenly as this strange dreamlike situation started, it was over. They finally reached the Petit Trianon and everything seemed normal again. Tourists, wedding parties, the usual hustle and bustle. But when Charlotte and Eleanor finally compared their accounts, they realized that they hadn't seen the same things. Charlotte saw the woman that looked like Marie Antoinette on the terrace, but Eleanor hadn't. When they finally revisited the palace, they were shocked to find the grounds looked incredibly different. What they saw was how the palace was supposed to look present day, but somehow what they saw in August of 1901 was what the palace looked like over 100 years earlier. For several years, they tried to make sense of what they saw, researching the palace's history and trying to find a solution. Some people believe they somehow slipped back in time, while others think they might have experienced one of Marie Antoinette's memories. But to this day, no one really knows what happened. If this story seems interesting to you, check out My Dark Corner for the full episode. It's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the audio version is up on YouTube.
So that's that time travel confirmed? Well, because like I said, but they were experiencing, two of them, they experienced different set of memories. One saw something, the other didn't, so it's hard to say. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate the support. Make sure you guys comment down below, leave a thumbs up in this video. Also hit that post notification bell so you always get notified when I upload my next video. You guys are gonna catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.